1. Glade of the skull, alum, pine. First witness, sweetness of fire. I open with a mouth of burning coal, burst from the bitter bone of my skull, so suicides will come down to drink. Forspoken water, rubbed on astonished eyes of the future, scarred the horses with lovers' curses, drew the worshness out of voices, whisper into quenched ashes. Love's eyes are colorless, a motive for moving through underworlds. Voice walker, I open speech, demolishing the Antonine Wall. Pictish scribes, Latin scrawlings, I deciphered them all, reminiscing on disappearance of Roman legions in Caledonian forest, led by Picti into hazel thickets. Those were true hieroglyphs, a body language of human sacrifice. The skeletons, articulate dust. Second witness, Ashfjolach. Wild tinder of bone, young charcoal marrow, nemeton. Bone char of sugar, tendon pyre, black heather suffumigation. I drown in smoke like the young centurion who lit the charbone god his tree has shelled. His tree is raked in oak. In historia vision est historia expiravit. The history of vision is the history of ghost. Third witness, stauncher of shade. Will fire turn jealous of wood? Wood be consumed by envious smoke? Throat to spirit throat I rose, beheld my head bones crosswise broken, hung in the burnt flesh of morning. Colorless bestiaries pant at my feet, temperatures rising, rust my face. I taught my shadow to rest for a while, to rest in the shade from the heat. But shade is only the surface it is cast upon made darker, a saturation by shadow, a mountain made blue by distance when sleet climbs the pines, a haunting by hue. Color, expanse, accident, temperatures of darkness seep beyond that which keeps my gaze. Sight-locked time did not witness terse tints my own shadow moved, therein double-crossing the spectrum, with additives of rowan, rainbow oil of peat water, broken blackthorn. This shadow comes silt reflection surges and swills at the back of my throat. Now, waters, fiery modulation, bottle-filled flame water, finds the voice grain in the singer rising up unto itself, pitched to the green horse's frenzy, fetlock to fetlock. I fixed them up myself. Horses whose strong backs boys stood upon, roped still for hanging. I undo my eyes, my mouth, my coat. Behe, birch, sand mirror. Alone in my mirror, I saw centuries bitter come down to pasture for the highland winter, and late in the charm garden, thought of my mother, pulling at her book like cooling meat. Who thought she could read it? In the air, nothing but the sound of winter, where the whirlwind lies in ice. Now old Coronach, she is keening in her sleep. Sleep, distended sleep, distended sleep, distended. Late in the woods, I came to find her weep. I speak from lids of lowered eyes, conjoined with black fire on fire. By day their seams are sodden, seeping, eyes of birch, flake on flake, molting winter sight. Bark mirror, night perceives more clearly than all other senses, requiring that we look direct. Daylight's mirrors, rubbed to weariness, merely receive their evidence. So survival by the shadow, a sense in time, rests place. This presage of a charm of a dial, by daylight fades, by night becomes night itself, lifted, lifts, corresponding sights evince. As this night I touch the quickened hind, garlic tipped in lightning, a flame to sense will bring back speech. She will speak from the hanging tree, a fire prayer of aerial burial. Will you come, or will you go? Or will you consume the wild heart's shadow? Fire mirror. The history of the living is the history of the dead. The skull has flared, guttered, died. The tongue intoned truth in lies. Time has darkened in a voice. We are death's own suicide. Call, hazel, carrion oracle, awake from a wild night's vision and dream. A cloak upon me, I was at my death. Birds fused to damaged bones, like the head bones of my teeth. Those artery carvers and wild carvers of bone were my carrion, smelling rot in the once sweet heart of the wood. Charcoal oracle. He who trembles stuns. Hung from the tree of my own skeleton, the birds came in. Hummingbird, honeyed heart feeder, siphoned my hurting heart's blood. The night owl swooped on my cranium, chipping to my brain flesh. my right hand gnashed to ribbons by the slaughter hawk, the night raven. The left eye in my head, punctured carefully by a wren. As I stood in a bloodfall of pain, fizzing guts of tears and bloods of sweat, I became a brutal angel stock. He who trembles stuns, boy of leaves, boy of spattered lettering. A gold eaglet ripped my lip flesh. My shoulder blades were wrenched by a swan. A desperate rook split my toes from bone. Ventricles unraveled by the feeding lark opened leaking sacs of lung. From rectum to colon, the snipe dragged my intestine to ground, scraping the sweet grains from my duodenum. Liver was lifted into the trees, kidneys spread beneath me. Carpals, femurs, ulna and radius emerged into flight. Sternum and ribs extended wings of the vulture feeder. A bloodied and fat-smeared tongue sliced with the remaining marks of teeth was severed by a gull, trailing the esophagus and first parts of my inner throat up into higher branches. My genitals peeled and wrenched by a scrat were dropped by my liver at my tarsus, piled up with a tibula and earlobe. My scalp, pared by the owl, crossed my face in a wet shadow as my cheeks were stripped by the urgent thrush. My sawdust mask bickered, shaved by vicious robins. He who trembles stuns. I was revealed to pine trees in a ligament of bone, a thought-walking skeleton, conscripted to eagle, strapped to gull. My raw red bone hipped to the wind, scratched into tree hollow. A feathered skin, fighting, feeding. This is fire, sprung out of water. This, a hemlock of fire-shockled owls, howling in the gold-spun dark. This, thawed within the raw thorn tree, the cold spring nightingale, entangling with song. Echo oracle, love the heart devourer, leans in to speak in tongues of flame. Flame that flecks fire upon us once again. A chaos of cinders is as forest in fable, and to dream must return. Late in the echo, I dreamt of nothing, but the echo was the dream. Mine was the scent of undertaking, though he was bound by sense to sight. Quicksilver slides, eye to eye, querent. How to rub or draw from himself wood's secret lens. His young vision, though bruised mist tracking, seizes distant grazers. White antlered, cropping dawn, stag looks up. King in the moontide sun, precisely 4 parts beaten. Salt in the hunger of fire can reform of itself a thirsty temple. Trespass scraped from the stag's leg can weigh and presage printing. Lightning skins damp with fire, hoar oak is kept by mistletoe. Death blooms consular, flourishing for solar water, bursts into flight. Psalm for thunder. Had he touched lightning's touch, Raiata's water, raising flower. Unfurled, smouldering ribbons rise, escape. A lucid glance twists in his hands a finger-borrowed arrow, slightly sprung, quivering. My shadow-guided dusk to him, watched night run him down, the quickened heel, death pulling back. Behind the hooves, swerving herds, in centuries of deer dust turn. One is always lost. Psalm for rain. It could be a flash of occultation, to kiss grief's rough touch and bleeding, wipe a damaged mouth. Oracular quiver. In metallic scrape, a prehistory, a floating feather, lightning me into skeleton. I am in drought. Strafe, blackthorn, oem confession. Histories of speech assuage my sadness when I am star-raved, dark. O zodiacal tree of curse, I was alive in the era of voice, grown as moss on the skull of tongues. Enkindling bones of dead letters, recollecting splintered speeches, classing visions, classing fevers, bewildering my own seasons. I mouthed a cant of bitter thorn, withering copse of wood-raved charm, Argot's corpse. Now that corpse is gone. Made you cry? Why? The listeners sit and die, swarmed in grief, loud note the flies. Tattered Amalian, curse-eaten coat, on oldest thorn held, faltered and fell. You slit my throat. I spoke. Glyph confession. On murmur briar and raw briar, my landed preambular snuffed the blackness from its star. Wily love throat, prick immure. How long I sought laughter underwater where the lilies hiss. I only rained blood of planets, smattering wind, barbing sea mist. My distaff is a wound rock of skin, thorn-kindled skein of stone. My voice, a spindle, cultivating tears. Flames squandered light, water-floundered star, gnashed lure, glamour. My hunting lands are growing slower. Where song stands still, I speak in color. Rune confession. Long I talked the hunger grasses, returned in thirst, a spittle wisp. My thorn globe burnt in a northern cornfield. First sphere of a world, scorched tongue tip. Reflex man, I intoned ghost. Strand of hair caught on a corpse bier. Double helix about my voice box, drawn through the hole of an absent pine knot. Cinder walker, ember walker, coal walker, co-walker. Ashed on dream, how fire wilts on me in runes. Quell blade of the quarter walker, unquiet my tongue. Sediments of smoke, sediments of soot. With sunken eyes I lift my chin. Shadow gatherer lurks at my throat. Old speech walk tinder, rekindling.
Idalvo